Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. City Clerk, roll call, please, for the City Council.
Council Member Authority Member Johnson. Present. Mann.
Present.
Smith.
Here.
Vice Mayor Vice Chairman Christ.
Present.
Mayor Chairman Paris. We have a quorum.
Motion to excuse.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. So order. Housing Authority, please.
Housing Authority Member Harvey. Present. Mann.
Present.
Smith.
Here.
Vice Chairman Christ.
Present.
Chair Zetto. We have a quorum.
Move to excuse Chair Zetto.
Second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. So ordered. Joanne Giovanna for the Spiritual Assembly of Bali. If you'll please rise.
This is a prayer revealed by Abdu'l-Baha of the Baha'i Faith, and it's a prayer for unity. O my God, verily I invoke Thee and supplicate before Thy threshold, asking Thee that all Thy mercies may descend upon these souls. Specialize them for Thy favor and Thy truth. O Lord, unite and bind together the hearts, join in accord all the souls, and exhilarate the spirits through the signs of Thy sanctity and oneness. O Lord, make these faces radiant through the light of Thy oneness. Strengthen the loins of Thy servants in the service of Thy kingdom. O Lord, Thou possessor of infinite mercy, O Lord of forgiveness and pardon, forgive our sins, pardon our shortcomings, and cause us to turn to the kingdom of Thy clemency. Invoking the kingdom of might and power, humble at Thy shrine and submissive before the glory of Thy evidences. O Lord God, make us as waves of the sea, as flowers of the garden, united, agreed through the bounties of Thy love. O Lord, dilate the breasts through the signs of Thy oneness, and make all mankind as stars shining from the same height of glory, as perfect fruits growing upon Thy tree of life. Verily Thou art the Almighty, the self-subsistent, the giver, the forgiving, the pardoner, the omniscient, the one Creator. Abdu'l-Baha.
Thank you. We're going to have a young gentleman, Taniko. Would you come up and lead us on the pledge, please? Will you introduce yourself? Right there.
Hello, I'm Taniko Smith from Discovery School, and please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Taniko, thank you.
Seated.
Okay, we have a large agenda today, so I'm going to ask the Discovery School to come down and their teacher and coach, Michelle Reynolds, if you'll come down, please. The team. Michelle, come on down. Michelle Bowers from our superintendent of schools. The assistant superintendent? No, come on down. You were called out. I think you would do a better job at telling everybody exactly what's taken place, and then we'll hand out the certificates.
Thank you. Hi, welcome. Thank you for having us here today. It's an honor to be here. This is my VEX robotics team. This is our second year, and the reason we're here today, we were honored to ask to come and be presented with awards because this year we were invited to the VEX World Championship down in Anaheim. Unfortunately, we did not qualify to be there, like the Joe Walker Jets did. But we put our name on the waiting list, and we got invited to come down. Oftentimes, they have teams from all over the world, and making the logistics to get there is sometimes not able to be done, so they open up spots for teams that can come locally. And so we went down, barely had a robot together, and this team just pulled it together and did an amazing job. Excuse me. And I'm very, very proud of them. They worked very, very hard. They ended up in 59th place out of 76, just in our division. So. There were over 700 teams there from elementary school all the way to high school, and the whole experience was just amazing to be able to be in alliance with a team from Japan, and to several times, and teams from all over the country. They were able to speak with students from all over the world, and break down some barriers and learn about their traditions and their strive for being there and being part of robotics as part of our STEM focus. So I just want to also say I could not have done it without my parents, and they're here today also representing their kids. Mr. Choi was actually elemental in one of our teams because he speaks a dialect of Cantonese and was able to translate for us. So without him, we might not have been able to work with our robotics team, our alliance at the time. And also I wanted to mention that Mr. Lexiconti, he was the one who actually donated all of our shirts last minute for us. So I want to say thank you for that. I am very, very proud of them. And also I do want to say that if it wasn't for the VEX Jets, we would not have had the mentorship that we received all year long. In fact, for the last 2 years, their team has been amazing, gracious, helpful, has invited us over, has come to see us, has worked with us. And so without them, we probably wouldn't have done as well as we have so far. So thank you. And next year, we're going to qualify.
Well, congratulations. Michelle, would you like to say anything?
I am just so extremely proud
Come on
of them. Well, good evening, and I would just like to say that I'm so extremely proud of them, and our teacher, Michelle Reynolds, is very humble and very gracious, but she deserves a round of applause all by herself because... Absolutely. While our students are working very, very hard, and we're very proud of them, this would not have happened without the hard work of Mrs. Reynolds. So we are very grateful and very honored to have her part of our Discovery team and part of Lancaster School District, and as well as having all of these students, and I will be at next year's competition. So.
So, Michelle, on behalf of the Lancaster City Council, we'd like to thank you for everything that you've done, and thank you for mentoring the youth of today. We really appreciate it. So thank you very much. Thank you. And we're going to have you read those, so we'll open them up for you, and you can call the students up, and we'll...
Okay. Eric Corona. These are some of my 8th graders that are leaving me this year, so I'm sad to see them. Andrea Choi. Brandon Gonzalez. Fernando Rosales. Taniko Smith. My 7th graders that will be with me next year, Isaac Amaya. Samuel Alvarez. Miriam Alvarado. Zaire Williams is not here, so I'll accept that on his behalf. And Jalen is not here, so I will accept that. I can't say his last name. Gamu Gage, I think it is. And then my 6th grader, Brody Freeman, who will be with me for 2 more years. Brody. He's not here either.
So let's get a picture.
Before we get a picture, are some of the parents here? Yes. Can we have you stand so that you can get a well-deserved round of applause?
Invite them down.
Come on down so we can get some pictures with you guys, too.
The guy's going to take the picture from here, so we'll stand somewhere over here.
Face this way, guys. Face this way.
Come on over here.
There you go.
There you go.
There you go. Face that way. There you go.
Would also like to get a shot. You can come right over here. Go ahead. Look at me. This is city photog first. Let's get the city photog.
I think all my family's in the picture.
Okay, good job, guys. Okay, Matt Anderson. And can we get all the kids from Joe Walker?
Okay, I'm Matt Anderson from Joe Walker Middle School. We're in our third year. Unfortunately, a lot of our kids are on a track meet right now, and I guess it's going over, so I got a lot of texts that they won't show up. We're in our third year with VEX Robotics. The first year we started, we have 12 kids, and then it was an after-school program. Now we have 50 on our team. Down to World Championships, we took 23. It's awful nice to see other schools start the program, and it's people like Discovery that make us push harder because we kind of get complacent in what we do. And Discovery finished in the 50s. We finished in the low 70s in our division. So our robot didn't perform as well. One nice thing about it is we had about 3 weeks or 4 weeks to prepare for Worlds. Michelle called me, I think, 3 or 4 days prior to Worlds and said, hey, we got a bid to Worlds. And I was like, you're nuts. Okay, so people like her and what she does for the program, my hat's off to her, and I admire that. So thank you, Michelle, for what you do for our kids. Okay, while we're at Worlds, we didn't finish as well as we wanted to with the robot, but the kids, Cole, where are you at, Cole? Raise your hand. We got a 3D printer through Donors Choose, and he started printing the 3D robot, the actual model of the robot, and they won the Create Award. So Cole actually ended up talking to Autodesk, and they're going to do a case study on him for the next 4 years, and he might be working for Autodesk real soon. So that's pretty impressive. Okay.
And it's Cole? Cole. Cole, come on up and talk. I had the pleasure of listening to Cole, and he gave a speech at Rotary, so I'm going to put him on the spot and have him give that same speech. How about
I can
it?
remember it. So before I joined VEX, I didn't know anything about engineering or what I wanted to do. But now, since I've joined VEX, I now know that I want to be an engineer and what I want to do for my life. And since we got the 3D printer, we started printing our robot, and that has worked out tremendously as we won an award at Worlds, and that's a very great honor. And thank you for giving us the chance to do this.
I thought that was a gift for me. Matt, come on up. On behalf of the City of Lancaster, I'd like to thank you. Thank you for mentoring our youth today, and we really appreciate it. So thank you very much. Thank you. So let's get a picture. Isn't that done? You broke it. Can you fix it, Cole?
You can print it. You can 3D print it for you. Okay. Instead of waiting until Worlds, we actually host a tournament in October. So October 18th is our next middle school only tournament at Joe Walker, so I invite everybody to come see that. Sienna is not here. We'll go through the ones that aren't here. Cole Barnett.
Go ahead and say their names.
Oh, okay. I was told not to. Denise, Katie, Sydney Chung, Zachary Conte, Zachary, Nathan Davis, Wesley Dumasala, Sheena Eustace, Cameron Franklin, Rhiannon Hill, most of those are track athletes, Carlene Holtz, Destiny Johnson, Corey Limeron, Lorraine Nath, Noah Okeda, Sammy Perez, Nelson Rios, Larry Smith, Angelique Beliotos, Lucas Vasquez, Cody White, and Devin Woolston. And along with Michelle, I'd like to also, our parents are probably the biggest supporters, and now we're branching out to other school districts, which is a great thing where we come and mentor each other, which is next year, Quartz High School starting a VEX team for the first high school team in the Valley. Westside has, I think, 6 or 7 VEX IQ teams, which is the elementary division. And on May 22nd next week, we're crazy enough to host a tournament for them. So if you're interested, come see that from 2:30 to when it's over. Thank you.
Michelle, come join us. You going to take a picture? Is that you? Okay. Can we get the family?
Let's give a big round of applause for the parents.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Any other president family want to take a picture? Here, we take 3 shots. Thank you, everyone. Because I got to listen to... JD, you're up. JD, I know you're running for assembly, but how many more times are you going to come make presentations to us?
I'll be here as often as you'll have me. Until the election.
Okay. Are you going to come back next council meeting and explain the dust problem out there?
We can discuss that tonight if you like.
Okay, sure.
All right. Good evening. I'm J.D. Kennedy, President of LA County Air Show. Here tonight to recognize both the city and several of your staff who have worked tirelessly over the last about a year. It was about a year ago that a group of us got together over at MOA. We invited down the CEO of the Capitol Air Show to kind of give us a run-through of what it takes to put on an air show. And after the lunch, about 80% of the people left, and a group of about 10 of us were left, and we set out to not just have an air show, but put together an event that we'd be able to have time and again on an annual basis, and we decided to have a scholarship foundation be our real mission. Our air show, our first air show, took place March 21st and 22nd, and by all accounts, I think it was a success. Nationally, we're being rated at about a 95 out of 100 across the air show industry, so we look forward to being able to get several Class A top performers back in the following years. But without our partnership with the City of Lancaster, we really would not have been the success that we were. Rhonda, Mike Rosa, Mark Bazigian, and Lee DeRico are all very active on our board. Mark's the only one of which is not actually a board member. But some of our biggest challenges were with parking, creating a parking lot, which did create some dust problems, which we continue to mitigate. We're actually going to recognize, I think the city's recognizing Mark Norris for the work he's doing. Got a call from the business owners yesterday, and they actually sang City of Lancaster praises for the work that Mark Bazigian and Mark Norris are doing. I was just out there before coming to City Hall today, and there's no dust right now, so very happy with that. And of course, there's not 45-mile-an-hour winds either, but we continue to take steps to spray and treat and compact the parking lots, and we anticipate, I think we've got about a 99 percentile that there's not going to be the dust problems that we've seen. But tonight we just wanted to recognize City of Lancaster, Mark Bazigian, Rhonda Perez, and Lee DeRico and Mike Rosa. We've got some recognitions for each of you for your participation and all the work that you all did to make the inaugural LA County Air Show a success, and just wanted to say thank you for the partnership.
Thank you. Thank you.
This is, those of you who didn't know that the Blue Angels have been off for 11 months. We were their first air show back, and they were here in Lancaster. So they provided us with lithographs signed by each of the Blue Angels that were here. Them flying over New York, Chicago, some big city.
Congratulations.
She's actually got one of her own.
Was this to the city council?
This is to city. Mark Bazigian. And Mike, we've got one for you. Somehow it's not here with us tonight, so I'll give you yours. But if you'd like to accept it with the air show. Mark. You. Rhonda. And Lee DeRico. Did you want to say something, Mark?
Yeah, just one of the benefits of being city manager is you get stuff like this when you didn't do anything. It was really our staff and these folks. So on behalf of the staff of City of Lancaster, hundreds of people that worked, I will humbly accept this on their behalf.
And now a personal friend, Mr. Mark Norris. Mark does everything for this valley. He was contacted for his advice and direction onto how to enhance, groom, and prepare the barren land located near Fox Field. He did virtually everything. He's our dirt guy.
Both in the air and on the ground.
Mark has a helicopter. He was our photographer. He did everything. He does everything that the nonprofits ask him for in the community, and he's a great asset to the community of Lancaster. So thank you, Mark. Thank you. Thanks. Okay, Waterworks 40.
Evening. Thank you very much, Vice Mayor, council members. We appreciate the opportunity to come here tonight. My name is Craig David, and I'm the area engineer for LA County Waterworks. We have a staff of about 90 or so people here. I'm also an Antelope Valley resident, and I want to talk to you a little bit about tonight about our drought that's going on. I'm sure many of you are aware of many of the elements, but you may not be aware of how it affects us and the drought and the valley in general. That's a fairly recent slide. As you can see, the drought areas in the U.S. You can see a big dark area kind of around Southern California, and that's a lot of where we get our snow melt from, which we depend on for our water supply. This is another way to look at it. We've got a lot of different charts here. The greenest one is 1982-83, had a lot of rain. The driest one is 76-77. The current one is the blue that you see in the middle. As you can see, for a while we actually had the record for the driest year. So we've since had some rain, which is good. But what the hard thing is, it's been the third year that we've had below normal rainfall. 2012, 2013, and this year. So it's been adding up. You can look at the rainfall there. The snow survey, only 13% of normal. That's not real healthy. This is a kind of a visual example of Folsom Lake up north. You can see where it was in 2011 and where it was this year. And why is that important to us? Because we get about 2/3 of our water supply from the state water resources. And that's, having problems with the snowpack, having problems with the rainfall, it affects our water supply greatly. Also, in the last 4 months, you can see that in addition, we've had you may not be aware that for a while there was a zero allocation declared by the governor, and that just means that we just didn't get any water from the state aqueduct, at least not in the normal sense. They've since upped it to 5%, but that's coming later. I think we get 1% in August and 4% more. That's still a minor percentage of what we'd like to get. But in addition, so we're counting our pennies, if you will, because we have just a limited amount of water that we can take. And fortunately, this was a warm winter that we had. And you can see the usage that we've had in the red was higher than what is normal. The latest month in April, it's about normal, but we would like to see people conserve. What are we doing for drought preparation? Groundwater banking, we have had the fortunately we were able to bank some water with AVEC in prior years, and we're now actively pulling that out. We have some carryover water from 2013. That's water that was left over in the state aqueducts reservoirs that we're now pulling off of. We're boosting our well production, and we apologize for any entrained air. You might, how many council members are our customers? You might apologize for the entrained air. It's all over town, especially on the east and west side. That's just from our wells pumping hard, and that's from AVEX wells, who's pumping us the water from their water bank to us. We've also actively working on conservation programs. You may have seen the Drought is On billboard that we have on Highway 14 coming up here. It's somewhere near the Animals Are People 2 billboard that you might have seen in Acton. And this is a lot of acronyms, but it's basically the MOU is agreement with AVEC to acquire additional water supply. And that's a means to get more water into the valley by having developers purchase water. Well, they give us a deposit, and we give it, but we let AVEC take that monies and see what other allocation they can get from the state to get their permanent allocation higher than what it is now. This kind of puts it into easy form to look at. The blue is our pumping. That's what we're getting from our groundwater. The yellow is our carryovers I talked about, and the banked water that we're actively pumping out of the bank there. Those are one-time. What worries me about that is those are one-time usage. Until it have a wet year again, we don't have any more water in the bank, nor do we get any more carryover water. And then that state water, the red part that you see, is part of the allocation that was recently given to us, and that's about 9% of our, which we never thought we'd be happy to at least get that much, but this year we are. But that's still, the blue area is, the light blue area is still a deficit. And that's something that worries us, and we're trying to make that up. How do we do that? We can purchase dry year water. There's some, especially through AVEC, there's some farmers that are willing to sell water at a price, more than twice our normal price. Looking really towards next year, we have a lot of arsenic problems with wells naturally occurring arsenic, and that really lowers our water supply if we can't use it. We have to meet state water regulations at all times. And if we did go with arsenic treatment, that would really essentially double our cost to get the water, at least from a purchase perspective.
Craig, can you go into what the testing you do as far as for arsenic, what happens so the people at home that are watching can understand the actual process?
I'd be happy to do that. What I'm hoping to do is wait till the end. I've brought my principal engineer from Waterworks, and he has he'll be able to answer some of those questions. We also have some other engineers as well that will answer that. We're hoping to focus right now on reducing water demand. It seems to be the easiest and quickest way, at least to ask for it. If necessary, we can recall construction meters that are out there, and if need be, we could do a mandatory water conservation program, which we hope we don't have to go into. The voluntary conservation is simply asking customers to reduce 20%. It's not as hard as most people think that it is to do, and we're trying to do that through additional public outreach and through our conservation programs. Here's some examples that we have for our public outreach. Like I said, some of these I've talked about. Maybe some of you have gotten the reverse 911 calls just saying, hey, please save water. I hope you have, because we've been trying to call most people. And, of course, we have our own website. We're getting flyers to schools and radio ads as well. So these are some of the ways we're trying to save some water. And this just tells what we would do if we had to go to, and then they talk about the board, that's the LA County Board of Supervisors, to implement mandatory water conservation pricing. And the last step is recalling construction meters. We haven't had to do that. And so anyway, that's just about it. I would like to, before I'd like to get any questions, I would like to introduce the principal, LA County Waterworks District's principal engineer, Daniel Lafferty.
Good evening, and thank you for hosting us tonight. I also have with me Greg Even. He is our water resources engineer. His job is to make sure that our water supply portfolio is robust and that we've got enough water to meet the demands that we have. I also have Dr. T.J. Kim. He is responsible for water quality across the districts. So if you have any detailed questions about our water quality program, he'll be able to answer those. So with that, I'd be more than happy to answer any questions you may have. Beg your pardon. Would you like to hear about the arsenic program first? TJ, would you like to take that?
So what is your specific question about arsenic?
How do you determine there's arsenic in the water? If you determine there's arsenic in the water, what processes do you go through? And how can the consumers be assured that they're protected?
Yes. Currently, we take arsenic samples from our wells and the point of entry to the distribution system on a monthly, weekly, and triannual basis. So we are taking a lot of arsenic samples to make sure that our water quality is safe to drink. And according to last year's the water quality report we published for our customers, arsenic ranges from non-detect to 7.7 parts per billion. And the federal and the state standard is 10 parts per billion, so we are in full compliance with the arsenic regulation.
What steps can consumers do to start saving water?
I think, as we go throughout the year, the biggest impact to our operations really comes in the summer months and the increased irrigation that takes place during those months. The easiest thing to do is make sure that your irrigation systems are set so that the watering occurs during the night instead of during daytime hours. Verify that your sprinkler heads are actually hitting your lawn and not the sidewalk or the side of the house. And if you can, dial back how often you do irrigate. A 20% reduction, if you think about that, if you were watering every day, if you could reduce that to 5 times a week, we would be at that 20% reduction mark, which would be enormously helpful to us to make sure that we've got the supplies to get us through the summer. Likewise, we do have audits that are available where we have a program if customers are concerned about where they either they perceive they have a problem or they'd like to get additional ideas on where they could make changes. We have a program where they can contact us and we'll actually walk through their home and explain to them where they could make some changes, whether that's swapping out shower heads to get low-flow shower heads, low-flow toilets, those sorts of things, or whether it's making modifications to the irrigation controllers and the irrigation systems. All of those we also support through rebate programs in the district so that we can reduce the cost to the customer for implementing those suggestions.
And the audits are done free to the customer?
If an individual wanted to go to a website, where would they go?
LACwaterworks.org.
Can you say it in the mic?
Yes, LACwaterworks.org.
And that's where they would go to also get information on rebates?
Correct. The rebates program are there. You'll find the links to that, as well as all the information about what you would need to do to take advantage of them.
Mark, question for you. Is it possible that we do a link between the city and LA County Waterworks?
Sure. We can also put it in Lancaster E-News and have a link on that as well, too. So we'll do that this week.
Great, we'd appreciate that.
Yeah, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful. And I think especially, too, to hear about water rebates and the potential of the free audit. And then the question I would have is there a targeted, we've got obviously a history of building over the years through the city of Lancaster. Is there a best candidate based on age of home that would be more significant, like on a retrofit? I mean, obviously, newer homes are going to have flow if they've been built the last, 6, 8 years at least?
You've had an ordinance on the books that requires those types of fixtures in homes, I think for the last, 3 years or so.
Right.
So those homes that are newer would obviously have them already installed.
Right.
And oftentimes we found that even in some older homes, if you've had progressive owners that understand how to manage their water bill, they've made those changes. But clearly, the bulk of those older homes, if they haven't been through a remodel, they're going to have the type of fixtures that use more water than is necessary to actually accomplish the purpose. So, the older the home, the more likely it is that you would be able to take advantage. And the thing is, at the end of the day, it's a win for the customer because you're going to see your water bill go down. If you're using less water, there's a benefit to you. Your water bill will be reduced as well.
Right. So now the question again is on the website, is there other than somebody calling for a free audit, is there an age of a home that this, say, hasn't been, that it could be easy for the user or the homeowner that has?
There are, on the website, there are water-saving tips that would be applicable to anybody. Okay. That, walk through and suggestions for what you can do and how really to kind of conduct your own self-audit. What you can do in terms of looking at your home and walking through purposefully and kind of walks you through the way that you can do that so that you can get a sense of where you may be wasting water unnecessarily.
In addition to residents, do we also have those for commercial business owners, business owners?
Yeah, actually a lot of our history of rebates has focused primarily on indoor. We've had some large apartment complexes and other types of businesses go in and retrofit large amounts of toilets and other types of fixtures. A lot of that has actually been done to date. So now we're focusing primarily on the outdoor because 60-70% of water use is outdoor. So we have a $1 per square foot sod replacement program. We have irrigation controller rebate programs. So that's really the target. I think a lot of the big gains have been made to a lot of the indoor efficiency gains. And now, we're hoping to target that next level. We have actually seen in Lancaster since about 2007 about a 25% reduction per capita on water use. So we've actually made great strides. It's just, the droughts don't care whether we've made great strides in the past. They still keep coming, and we got to continue to, squeeze out that last drop on each of these properties.
One of the things I'd like to add is that a lot of the, we've got a lot of mileage on those homes that were built in the last boom, that when the developer comes and the landscaper comes, they turn on the water to make sure it's nice and lush so that it sells quickly. People move in, they don't touch it. And most of the time, even just turning it down, either take off one cycle or turn it down a few minutes can save a tremendous amount of water. And it's, but, you know, some of those I have actually walked through with customers to show them. You know, we'll read the meter at the beginning of the irrigation cycle, read it at the end. It's amazing how much they use. You can use 500 to 1,000 gallons in one shot. So, you know, we're in a desert. I mean, our winter usage up here, you know, for overall Lancaster, Palmdale, is probably maybe 10 million, 13 million gallons a day. In the summer, it can be 60 to 70. What's the difference? Outside usage. So people, you know, taking their water, actually just watering at night can help. You don't get the evaporation going, and little tips can help. Tear out that lawn if you can do it. Some of our customers are letting their, either taking advantage of the, you know, Cash for Grass program, or just letting certain areas that they really don't care about.
That's a bad name.
What's that? Cash. Well,
Good catch. One last thing, and has there been any thought about the frustration? I was speaking just recently with the manager of Home Depot, and any thought about Waterworks 40 District teaming up with Lowe's and Home Depot and trying to get maybe some advertisement there at their garden centers to encourage people to use Desertscape? I mean, this year I just got finished pulling out. In fact, I just had the landscaper in, and we pulled out more lawn.
Yeah, we have in the past done joint programs with both Lowe's and Home Depot. I don't know when the last one was.
I think it's with Home Depot, and we have highlighted their drought tolerant plants, but that was last year. We haven't done it again this year, so we'll consider doing that this year and teaming up with them.
Yeah, I think that would be very helpful. There's a lot of people that somewhat naive, and you know, you go and they buy plants, and I'm not trying to hurt Home Depot or Lowe's, because I spoke to the manager on a personal level, and I said, look, I'm not trying to hurt sales, but gosh, and I know we can be very selective. I've lived here my whole life, and I can remember there was a lot of not the most intelligence thought used back 40, 50 years ago about plant selection in the desert here. And now, obviously, we're much more intelligent about what grows well here and plants that don't use a lot of water.
Yeah.
And people don't understand about trees. You know, they don't understand the type of trees.
That is, you know, from our perspective, one of the biggest challenges and has the biggest reward, and that is simply education. People just don't know
right.
What the smart choices are and what they can do to kind of contribute to, you know, securing their own water supplies for the future. So, you know, Craig mentioned all the public outreach that we have been doing, and as much as we do, it's never enough. And that's actually one of the reasons why we thought it was so important to come to you tonight, to speak specifically to you and to the rest of the community directly, and explain that the dire need that we're in and the help that we need from them to make up the water that we're going to need for the rest of this summer.
We agree with you. I think education is the key. And Councilmember Mann, I think you're absolutely right with having those partnership with those companies. I know I'll go in and buy some things, some flowers or plants, and I really don't know how much water it would take. So I think that's a really great idea. So if we're able to put the website with the City of Lancaster, anyone can go in there to find out about rebates. And they also can ask any questions. And also if they have questions about the quality of the water, they'd be able to do all that too.
Yes.
Okay.
Can you talk a little bit about your cash for sod?
Sure.
Sounds better.
Go ahead, Councilor.
So what you do is you file an application. There's an application online. Our water conservation coordinator reviews that application, and then once it's authorized, you go out and hire somebody to do the work. And then we do a post-install inspection to make sure that you've traded out your sod, and then we give a rebate of $1 per square foot, cash rebate back to you.
Very nice.
Great. So they can go to your website to get all that information?
Yeah, they can get the application. If they have any questions, like I said, there's a contact person. Rhea Gonzalez is our water conservation coordinator, and she can answer any questions.
Is there limitations on it?
I believe it may be up to 5,000 square feet, but, we've been talking to some other businesses that have a little bit more, and I think, we're willing to, we obviously want to be able to, we have a fixed lump sum that this is coming out of, so we want to make sure that everyone benefits, so that's why we have a limitation. But, we're open to discussing with larger customers as well.
Beautiful.
Who can talk with us in regards to recycled water?
Either Greg or I. I'll talk to, do you have a question, or do you just want me to give you...
Tell me about it.
Recycled water is probably one of the most underutilized resources that we have in California, and certainly in the Antelope Valley. It's one of the most reliable sources because it is being produced all the time, and it is local. I know that the city is taking great strides to build a system that can deliver recycled water, and there have been other efforts that we've been a part of as well to try to increase and begin delivery of recycled water so that we can offset those truly non-potable uses where you can use recycled water and then you have that potable water available for truly potable purposes.
So in the recycled water, if you use it, say we use it to water our parks, and it percolates, my understanding, it percolates down into the aquifer, and it comes out for groundwater, clean water?
Yeah. So there's a percentage that would be evaporated. There's a percentage that is taken up by the plants, and then the remainder actually will at some point in time percolate down into the groundwater table and be available at some point for extraction in the potable supplies.
So the more water we keep here, the better it would be for the entire community?
Yes, there is a regulatory hurdle that has to be overcome before we can have widespread use of recycled water. The state requires a salt nutrient management plan to be produced and accepted by the Regional Water Quality Control Board. We've been engaged with the sanitation districts and the regional board for about 2 years now, working on that plan. I thought it was going to be about a 12-month effort. We've doubled that to date. I don't know, Greg, you have a estimated end date in mind that looks reasonable?
Yeah, we're actually looking to submit the final plan actually tomorrow, and hopefully get. It's going to be also part of the Antelope Valley IRWIMP document, that the update that we're doing. So that will be a part of that. And we've already received one round of comments from the regional board, and we'll expect to get some final comments from them.
Okay, I have a lady here that wants to talk on the water, but it's a presentation, and we usually don't do that. So would you guys like to speak with her on your own?
Sure.
Heather, can you...
You want us to get together with her? And
it's this lady right here.
Okay.
And then if you'd like to speak, I can put your card in the non-agendized, but we don't let people speak during presentations. So if you would like to speak with these gentlemen and about your concerns and that, they'll answer any questions that you might have. And then if you want to come back during non-agendized, I'll leave your card there. Okay. Then if you guys just talk with her, that's, thank you for coming. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Minutes. No speaker cards for the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the City Council Successor Agency Financing Power Authority regular meeting minutes.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries, so ordered. Consent calendar. We don't have any speaker cards. I need a motion and a
A
second.
motion that we approve the consent calendar as comprised.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Let's vote. Motion passes 4-0. PH1. We'll now open the public hearing for PH1 and hear the staff report for the housing. Elizabeth?
Do we have speaker cards?
It's a public hearing. Do we have to? I think we have to open it at least.
We can open it, but we can waive the staff report if there's no...
Yes, you open it, then do the staff report, then
Okay.
take public comment.
Can't we
Which one
waive
is
it?
this?
Can't we waive it if there's no speaker cards, I thought? That was our prerogative?
That's up to you.
Right, that's what I thought. Unless somebody wants to hear it on the council, but
I'm good. I know about it.
I'm good.
I'm good.
I'm good.
Okay.
So we got concurrence on the...
We're going to close the public hearing. We have no speaker cards on it. I need a motion.
I motion that we approve PH 1.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Let's vote. Motion carries 4-0. NB1. Jason.
No speakers cards?
No, we want to hear about this.
Hear about this.
Vice Mayor, City Council, today is an exciting day in our energy program. And today represents a accumulation of a significant amount of staff work and energy put in, specifically Shannon Dow, our projects coordinator in the LPA, Heather Swan and her staff, as well as Barbara Boswell and her staff, in creating what we have before you today, an ordinance for the intent to implement community choice aggregation locally. I would also like to highlight our consultants, which we've hired, Wildan and Internex, who are here to answer any questions as well. Today we're asking the council to approve an ordinance for the intent to form a CCA, which is the first step in the process of creating a community choice aggregation, which allows us to take that next step in our energy future. As you know, under the direction of the mayor and the city council, we have been diligently working to become the first net zero city in the world. And to accomplish this, we've implemented a number of different programs. Solar Lancaster, which you all remember, put us as the per capita leader in energy generation. That's specifically our residents and their rooftops, generating energy to help not only save them some money, but also save the world and save the planet. Our city facilities have all been, not all of them, our major sources have been, have solar placed on them. Many of you parked under them today, generating about 97% of the city's energy uses from the sun. We've also partnered with Lancaster school districts to develop 25 different school sites, and we're proud to say that every one of our schools have solar on them within the city of Lancaster. Your council approved an ordinance requiring a residential solar development, so every new home has a solar panel on the top of it to generate electricity. The partnership with KBBYD, which created the Zero 2.0 house, which is not only net zero energy but also net zero water now. The city land leases, where you've seen city lands turned into solar fields to generate revenue, and of course the multitude of developments that are happening out specifically on the west side, some on the east side, where we've streamlined our development process to assist in developing energy as well as developing jobs. The creation and the development of the CCA is the next logical step in becoming a net zero city. The CCA gives the community choice in their energy needs and provides local economic development opportunities. And Vice Mayor, before you ask, I know you mentioned on numerous occasions that a mechanism did not exist for the ability to use local generating resources locally during the power plant discussion. The process that we're asking you to do tonight, approve tonight, is the process that makes local energy available to be used locally. And that's what we're asking you to do tonight. With that said, I'm going to turn it over to Shannon Dow to tell you about CCA, what it does, what it represents, as well as Heather Swan to talk a little bit about the process that we're going to undergo. So with that, I'll turn it over to Shannon. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Christ, members of the City Council, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you tonight. The first thing I'd like to do is explain in a little more detail what a CCA is. It's called a Community Choice Aggregator, and what we would be doing as the city is primarily procuring power. We would then sell this power to the residents in place of Edison. Now, it's important to remember that we will not supplant Edison in this process. They will continue to do transmission and distribution. The infrastructure will still be theirs, as will the responsibility to maintain it. On the residents' end, they'll benefit from affordable rates, local control, and cleaner energy, because the City of Lancaster, as the CCA, will have the ability to determine the renewable energy content. So I'd like to emphasize also that this is a partnership with SCE. We are reliant upon each other in this process. We, as the CCA, are only responsible for procuring and selling the power. So again, transmission, distribution, infrastructure, basically anything you can touch will continue to be SCE's responsibility. And we will have a lot of interfacing with them as far as data exchanges. We'll both provide different aspects of customer service. So this is very much a partnership with our IOU. From a customer's perspective, this kind of spells out how a CCA and SCE will work together. So you would continue to call SCE for service or to report an outage. You'll continue to receive one bill from SCE each month. It will just have a little bit different charges. For electricity, that side will come from the CCA, but it will come in the same envelope that you get now. In addition, what we've dubbed Lancaster Choice Energy will have new cleaner choices in energy sources, new competitive pricing, as well as increased renewable energy content. So there are a number of benefits with instituting a CCA. One of the first is that this is the first time in history that Lancaster residents and businesses will have a choice of their energy provider. Up until now, most Californians experience only one opportunity, and that's their regional IOU. However, there are a couple of operating CCAs in the state. We have Marin Clean Energy, and Sonoma County Power just started this month. So for the first time, Lancaster will have that opportunity, and our residents and businesses can choose what works best for them. If they want to opt out of the CCA, they have that opportunity as well. They will receive a minimum of 4 notices in the mail. There will be 2 in the 2 months prior to their enrollment and 2 in the 2 months after, in addition to all of our marketing for the CCA program to make sure they're aware of that. Additionally, we'll have potential for consumer cost savings through the CCA. I'd like to emphasize that at this stage, we are just preparing to release an RFI, which will help us further refine our costs. And once we know that, once we've determined that, we can set our rates. And that'll be through a public hearing process that you will control. Our rates will be competitive with SCE. And we're also looking to take advantage of local power, local control to save customers money in the long term. Renewable energy is another aspect of CCA that we can take advantage of. We will have local control of our energy portfolio for the first time. This means that we can determine the renewable energy content in our portfolio, and we can further our net zero energy goals. This feeds into the next benefit, which is job creation and local economic impact. We can actually contract with the solar developers that are building right here in Lancaster to provide that power to our residents. And this helps keep our money in our community rather than sending it outside to a regional IOU. Again, local control. Today, if I have a concern about my rates as an SCE customer, I would have to go to San Francisco and speak before the CPUC to have my voice heard. But if I were a customer of a CCA, I would go to my local jurisdiction. Under Choice Energy, that would be right here at Lancaster City Hall. So our residents will have much greater access to that process. With that, I'd like to introduce Heather Swan to talk a little bit more about the CCA.
Good evening, Vice Mayor Christ and Council. Marin Clean Energy is the first operating CCA in the state of California, and they began in 2010 and have since achieved great success. Just last year, they reported a savings of over $6 million for their participants. And although this example of Marin is in PG&E territory, we do know that IOUs as a whole are increasing their rates. And what a CCA will give us is that benefit to have local rate control. We can bring that back home and do what is best for our community and most applicable here. But we're entering into a very exciting time. We are breaking new ground, and we are slated to be the first CCA in Edison territory, and we're looking forward to working with their staff that has developed the program. They're eager to get this launched here in Edison territory and move ahead with us. But as you can see, this is a very long process. We're currently here tonight for the CCA ordinance, which is a non-binding, but it will allow us to move forward to refine the program. And later this week, we expect to release the RFI. This is the first step in our power procurement procedures, which will seek the assistance of third-party consultants who will help us navigate this process and prepare for the implementation. Throughout this implementation, and through the notification process and mass enrollment, we are planning to have extensive customer outreach to businesses, industrial customers, and residences throughout the entire city. As you can see from our tentative timeline, we are looking to start with all municipal accounts first in order to ensure that all of the processes are in place. This would allow us to test on all city accounts and make sure that we don't have any hiccups in the system that would cause any of our businesses or our residents any trouble. And then approximately in November 2015, we are looking to enroll our commercial and industrial accounts, and then later, February 2016, the resident accounts. Of course, each one of these phases will be linked with the opportunity to meet with the businesses and residences in order to address any questions or concerns that they may have for the program. But if everything goes well and rollout goes better than expected, we are able to move this timeline forward and begin service even sooner. We thank you for your time, and we'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Can you, each council person has gone through or had the opportunity to go through a briefing. Mine took 2.5 hours. So I know this is, a lot of people at home are probably thinking, how can you process this and make a decision on this based on the information that you just gave us? So can you tell us about the line loss and how we benefit from line loss?
What line loss is when you have a generation facility and then you have to transmit that power over transmission lines to your ultimate destination. It's a loss in efficiencies. So when you build locally and you have local generation, say for example we utilize the power from a local solar plant on the west side, it would connect here at our Antelope substation. So you would have farther distance for that electricity to travel to your end user and therefore higher efficiencies, and you'd retain more of that power, thus having less line loss in that scenario.
I would also add, Vice Mayor, that this is the beginning of a process. As much as there is information that we have been provided, that we are going to be provided to the Public Utilities Commission, there is also an extensive process we must still go through. Heather mentioned the RFI process as it relates to identifying who's going to help us in this process, the cost of the energy that's going to be provided. A lot of those details are yet to come, and of course the public and the City Council are going to be well aware of those changes, well aware of those opportunities, and it'll be before you again for final approval.
I think one of the questions, Heather, is this is definitely, as our Vice Mayor said, we've had a briefing over this, and it's been very detailed when we received the briefing. It's definitely a win-win in many ways. However, can we let our residents know, is under the CCA, if a customer wants to remain with SCE, what would they need to do?
If a customer decided to remain with Edison, it's not a problem. They have that opportunity not only in the 2 months prior where they're being notified and the 2 months after enrollment where they're also being notified, but we're going to have the processes in place throughout the entire operation of the program where they're able to opt out at any time. And they can do that either via phone call, through mail, or we'll also have a website set up so they can opt out in any way that they choose.
Okay, great, thank you.
If we're doing this, are we doing this to make money, or are we doing this so our residents save money, or both?
The terminology "make money" is probably difficult to define. The idea is that this is an alternate revenue stream for the city. At the same token, there are going to be operational costs associated with this venture. So as relates to the stability of revenue stream to the city, absolutely this will stabilize the revenue stream associated with city government. As relates to customer interface, absolutely. The goal is choice. We've talked about choice and how important choice is. This creates a marketplace for energy. And to compete in that marketplace, there's a couple things that we have to provide. We have to provide a better product, right? It's either more local, where people can say, I want to buy that product because it impacts, maybe my cousin has a job in those energy fields. There may be a reason, a purpose to buy local energy. There might be price. They might say, I choose that product because it's less expensive than an alternate product. Or they might choose that product because it's greener and they have a sense that they want to commit. So there's a multitude of benefits We didn't touch on it earlier, but there's also an opportunity for economic and development incentives where we can compete at a greater level than other communities for job creation. Not just job creation in generating and developing energy facilities, but job creation and actually helping a business relocate to create jobs, helping a manufacturer create a better product at a cheaper rate and create jobs. So there's a multitude of benefits, but the key is it's centered around choice, centered around the fact that this creates a marketplace. We have to be competitive, and we have to provide a rate, a service, a product that's better than the competitor.
I too, in fact, Marvin and I went through the same briefing, so help everybody at home understand. So how this might affect the current staff here at City Hall. I know that obviously the last 2 or 3 years we've had to put our conservative hat on. So at this stage and in the future, how would that might impact staffing and the cost to the overhead of employee base here at the city to move towards this?
At the present time, we are going to be using existing staff to implement this program, and we're planning to continue that through the rollout phase. So that'll be the people you see here, a number of Barbara's staff, and our fellow LPA staff members. There's a project team of about 7 that's working on it now. And we'll continue that through the launch period. As new staff are needed, we will hire them either internally or externally, whatever's most appropriate for the expertise that's required. And all of the staff will be financed through the CCA revenues. So as Jason mentioned, there's a lot of overhead, not a lot of overhead, but there is overhead associated with doing a program like this. And so that those funds will finance any staff that are needed for the program.
I would also add that we're going to be relying heavily on third-party consultants. The work that has to be done to accomplish this end is substantial and very technical. It's scheduling power, determining where to acquire power, making sure it hits the lines, communicating with ISO and the PUC. There's a lot of things that have to happen. A lot of that is going to be handled through a third-party consultant. So there'll be a team of individuals implementing the program, but not necessarily all city employees. There's going to be a substantial back end to this effort that is going to be a third-party consultant.
So I have a comment and then maybe another question leading my previous experience in business, and I'm going back at least 15 years. I know that commercial business has had the choice. Help me understand. I want to make sure that the public understands about choice, because I can remember running several businesses where we were able to opt out of getting power from Southern California Edison. And I'm assuming, because this might be unique and new to the public, but, I mean, has not this been going on for several years?
The program you're referring to is direct access, and direct access is allowed by the PUC, and Edison would open it up for only a limited amount of power. So it was usually large users. I know our hospital has taken advantage of it. Many franchised businesses would go out and purchase on behalf of all their franchisees. So that program is very limited, only available to commercial customers, and it's very narrow in the fact that they'll only allow, say, 100 megawatts or 200 megawatts out at a time. And that throughout the region, throughout the Edison territory, is not very much at all.
Right.
So this program allows you to bring all accounts within our jurisdiction those benefits without having to go through that very narrow definition for direct access.
Yeah, just sharing with everybody, we still had power every day. I don't recall what the bill looked like. I don't think we got a Southern California Edison bill, but I know my historical, and I'm trying to be an optimist here, is we had about a 20% savings. I'm not trying to badmouth Southern California Edison, but I can definitely recall 10, 15 years ago where we were enjoying a 20% savings in our power bill, and when you would get into summer months, that was quite significant. So I'm assuming that now by us entering into this, if we vote on it tonight and allow to move forward, then there could be potential rate savings in the future that homeowners would enjoy then to some degree, I would think. Am I off base here? Or?
No, you're not off base at all. In the direct access market, those contracts were done directly with the wholesale providers,
Right.
and that would be why you saw a greater savings, and probably why your bill looked different as well.
Right. But this would be very similar in concept.
Very similar in concept, runs through a lot of the same processes, and very possibly seeing great savings. We haven't run the analysis on every individual bill, as that would be very time-consuming, but from the case studies that we have run, we are seeing a benefit to the end customer overall for the year. So that is what is encouraging in our feasibility study that has allowed us to move forward and bring to you tonight the ordinance to form, which is why we have the confidence that this program will help be successful and be very positive for our community.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to ask one more question. First, the council applauds everyone, all of you, who have really been a big part of this project. I mean, it's truly thinking outside the box. For us here to try and get creative and figure things that are out of the ordinary, and we just kind of throw it at you guys, and you guys really took it to heart, and to hear you guys, as much knowledge as you've gained and the education that you've passionately taken in, it's so inviting when we ask you questions and you have answers, and if you don't, you go and find them. And that's comforting to us, the council, and hopefully it is just as comforting for the residents. So maybe this next question I have might be a little too early. However, it might be a question that people are thinking, is if the CCA makes a mistake, would that cause any kind of power interruption or blackout for our residents? And if so, what could we do?
I'm happy to report that no, there is no way under a CCA that our residents could experience a blackout or power interruption. If a mistake were made on behalf of the CCA, there could be fees, but no matter what happens, every resident and every business will continue to be connected to the grid just as they are today. If they flip that switch, the power will be there, unless, of course, there's a citywide outage of some kind.
Okay.
So that will not be affected by the CCA.
Wonderful. Thank you.
If this is so good, why are we the only ones doing it?
I mean, I can tell you what I think.
Okay.
I have a sense it's because of the leadership, frankly. I want to take the opportunity to introduce Chris, too, is that Chris with Wildan, he gets the opportunity to go in a number of different cities and places and have conversations about energy and things of that nature. But my opinion, it's leadership, and it starts from leadership, as well as staff that is willing and capable to do it. But there may be alternates that statewide that I don't understand. There should be more.
Chris Fisher with Wildan Financial Services, Vice Mayor and Council. This has been an exciting project for us, and we appreciate the opportunity to have worked with the staff here up to this point. And generally, I would echo what Jason said, that I've talked to a number of cities and gone to some local association and government meetings where they've talked about CCA and different cities being interested in CCA. And it really it's a big commitment for a city to take on. It requires a long-term commitment of resources and a unified vision of what the city's trying to achieve to get there. And it's frankly just more than some cities are willing to take on. It's not a quick fix option. It's not an immediate result. It takes years of planning, and we've already been working on this now for more than a year, right? And we're still just at the very beginning of the implementation phase, so it's a lot of analysis, a lot of heavy lifting to get there. And I think I would just echo what Jason said. It does require a firm commitment on the part of the city to move forward, and a shared vision, and a real desire to do that heavy lifting at the beginning to get there. But there's certainly no reason other cities couldn't do it. Marin's been successful. Sonoma's getting off the ground. It's just a matter of the want to.
Jason, what are our liabilities?
There are risks without question. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be jumping into a marketplace that we have little experience in. I think as other cities go, we probably have more experience than any of them. But Sandra asked a question about the greatest risk is people's power going to turn off. The answer is no. Are we going to be required to go replace a significant amount of infrastructure when a bus hits a power line? No, that's not going to be a risk. There is there is a balancing act that we must make as a city or as a CCA as it relates to buying energy. So what happens in the marketplace, when somebody turns on the light, power needs to be there. We will have the responsibility to have procured that power and put it in the marketplace for that power to happen. And there's a balancing authority that CalISO does. So you make an estimate that day to say, we're going to use 100 megawatts of power. We then have to say, we're going to procure 100 megawatts of power at a certain time to make sure that that power is there. If we don't have that, the risk is CalISO will provide that energy. As Shannon mentioned, that the lights won't go off. CalISO will provide that energy. We just have to now buy that energy from the balancing authority, which is CalISO. When we have to do that, we then have to pay a greater expense for that energy. So as it relates to that risk, that is the risk that we face. That are the challenges we face. The way to mitigate that is through appropriate contracts with your solar or energy providers, appropriate estimates as it relates to that. And I think the key is, and one of you asked the question earlier, is that this is happening every day now, right? There are people with direct access, that there is an ESP, an energy service provider, that is doing this service every day today, understanding that marketplace. And we will be outreaching to them to help us understand that. So as much as the level of experience we have isn't to that, we're going to look to those consultants, those experts, to mitigate that risk that we may face. As relates to if catastrophe happens and we are unable to do anything, the CCA reverts back to Edison, and Edison assumes that role again. So as it relates to the magnitude of the impact, there is limited impact, we believe.
We have gone up and down the state fighting for Cal Water with the PUC. Are we subject to the PUC?
That is what we believe one of the greatest benefits is that the rate setting as relates to the energy component of your bill will be set by the City Council.
So it's my understanding, and I'm not bashing Edison because they have to do what they have to do, but they did a 16% rate increase in January. They also had a rate increase in April, and they're asking the PUC for another rate increase now. We won't be subject to any of that?
Those are a combination. Edison's rates are very, very complicated. So as relates to the rate, there is an Edison component of your bill that all the citizens will still be subject to. As relates to the energy component of that bill, your city council will control that pricing. And that is, I think it's approximately half of the bill. So if you take half of that bill and compare it, I think, Marin has PG&E is probably not the best example, but there is a component of the distribution and the energy charges. You will control the rates of that energy. And again, as much as you control the rates, the citizen controls who they choose, right? So, they can choose the PUC to be their governing body of what their rates can be, or they can choose the City Council, depending upon what those rates might be. We happen to believe that they will choose the City Council because they know you and they're your neighbors.
Yeah, kind of hard to fire SCE right now, huh?
It's hard to fire SCE right now, yeah. It's impossible to, and it's hard to, as Shannon pointed out, to travel to San Francisco and be one lone voice in a sea of millions of customers.
Right. Yeah, right now, just the information exchanged about the application for the rate increases, how many people publicly knew of what's coming down the road, they're unaware of that. And I think having a choice, we all like to have the freedom of choice. Right now we don't. Unfortunately, with public utilities, to some degree, you're kind of at their mercy of, kind of like with Cal Water.
Yeah.
Residents.
Yeah, no, true.
So,
right.
but that's my issue. We will not run into that problem that Cal Water has with their people. If, let's say, we do a bad job, they can go back to Edison.
Correct.
Okay, and Edison will take them back.
Correct.
So there's no large liability with the consumers in Lancaster.
Absolutely not. In fact, the fact that they have choice, you mentioned the 16% increase from Edison, the fact that they have the opportunity to opt out of that 16% increase. Mm-hmm. Right now, they have no option to say, I get a 16% increase, other than going to San Francisco and telling the PUC, don't increase my rates.
That's my point. It's coming.
Is this like medical insurance where there's an opt-in, opt-out period?
There is, we're defining that as we proceed, but there is an opt-in, a notice requirement to opt in, and then they have that's legally required, that opt-in notice 2 months before, 2 months after enrollment. They can exit at any point. Now the question becomes, it'll be a decision you make in the future of what penalties are associated with exit, if any. Okay, so at any point you can take the position that we want freedom of choice, we want to let anybody freely choose without any penalty. They can come and go as they please, but that's a decision a policy decision your council is going to need to make. We haven't taken a position on that yet as a recommendation, as we're just working on trying to identify all the rate structuring and the costs associated with that person. There are sometimes exit fees, costs to the city. You've procured power on an annual basis for that person. That person's no longer in. What do you do with that power you procured? There's some issues like that, but those are going to be a council decision. It's going to be a local decision made.
Let's talk in terms of economy of scale. How do we compete with Edison as far as buying the power?
I don't know. I mean, I guess I don't know how we compete with Edison. I just know people are doing it cheaper now, right? The initial companies we've talked to who are energy service providers who actually provide this, for example, to our hospital. Our hospital is a direct access customer. They don't get their energy from Edison. It comes through their lines, but they get it from a third party. That third party, they have a choice for that third party, is providing them energy cheaper than Edison today, right? Our relationship that we provide to those citizens is no different than that relationship. How we beat them, I think we're going to learn a little bit more as we go down this process of how it works. I just know now that it does work, and people are doing it every day today, beating Edison's pricing. I would also say that there's, you mentioned economy of scale. I would add that sometimes size is not a benefit. Sometimes regulators who regulate you is not necessarily a benefit. The fact that we're smaller, more nimble, more agile, more local might have some impact on the pricing we can give. Right, the contracts we might have with local vendors, local providers of energy, the loss, the Heather talked about the loss, being able to adjust quickly to those issues, I think, give us an advantage, frankly.
Since you bring that up, would you explain why it's important to go first?
I don't know. We just like being first. You can practice. I think we've had a history of being first. Later in the agenda, we're going to have another item where we're first. I think being first, you have the opportunity to negotiate better deals, right? Those businesses who are partners with you want to be first, right? They want to be the first one to do it. I know Wildan, for example, is a Municipal Services Financial Group. They've never done this before. Enerx is in the energy field. They've done the energy before, but they want to be first too, because they want to say, we can make it happen for the next guy, right? We want to be first so we can blaze a trail so the next guy comes in and has a little easier effort. And the fact of the matter is, we have to be first, because the goal that the council has set is net zero, and to accomplish net zero, we have to be a CCA.
Any more questions? Ron?
No, I'm good. Like I said, I'm an optimist here. I think there's a lot of positive going down the road. And then the thought process of choice, to me, that is sometimes so significant, because right now, when you get that bill, there's no choice.
Right.
What a wonderful job you guys have done on this. I know that it's taken a long time. I know that staff, all of you guys have done a wonderful job, so the City Council thanks you a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I need a motion to introduce ordinance 997.
I'd be honored to introduce ordinance number 997.
I'll second that.
Let's vote. Motion carries 4-0. Wait, we're going to have to back up. Sorry. David Paul, we good? Thank you. We don't have to back up. NB2. No.
Yeah, why don't we just wait? Can we waive the presentation?
We can waive it. That'd be great.
Okay. we're going to waive the staff report on this. I need a motion and a second for adopt resolution number 14-19.
So moved.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Let's vote. Motion carries 4-0. NB3. Jason, you're back up.
I know. And Vice Mayor, Council, you have an opportunity to be first again. The item on your agenda is a recommendation to approve a sale and purchase agreement with Southern California Edison for approximately 18,000 streetlights. So to understand that a little better, I'm going to turn it over to Heather, but just a comment as it relates to the overarching purpose of why we're doing this is, again, one of our largest expenses is energy. Right, as a city and as a community, one of those largest items within our energy bill is our lighting system, our street lights that we'd light ourselves at night. This has been a long process to understand what that value is to us, but the reality is, by acquiring these street lights, fits perfectly into the energy strategy that we just talked about, as well as creates opportunities in energy, in technology, in economic development, in safety that, frankly, without the ownership of these lights, we couldn't achieve. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Heather to talk a little bit about the strategy, the details of it, and recommend that you approve the sale and purchase agreement of the streetlights.
Thank you, Jason. Vice Mayor and Council, he summed it up pretty nicely. But before you tonight is a purchase and sale agreement between the City of Lancaster and Edison. Just to give you a little background on what that is and how this process works is that purchase and sale agreement becomes attached to what's called an 851 application filing. Now, because Edison is an IOU regulated utility through the Public Utilities Commission, the PUC requires that before Edison dispose of any of its assets, it file an 851 application to do so. The PUC then evaluates the methodology in which that asset was valued, and then they determine yay or nay. May the IOU utility dispose of that asset. They ensure that the ratepayer is not harmed in any way and that it's beneficial to all parties involved. So we're looking to attach this purchase and sale agreement to the 851 application that will then be submitted to the PUC in the very near future, through which they'll go that process and take about 9 to 12 months is what they're estimating. And what we're looking at in that purchase and sale agreement is 17,856 LS1 streetlights. An LS1 streetlight is owned by Edison, it's maintained by Edison, and we pay roughly $11 per month per light. When we take it over and the PUC approves that transaction, it becomes an LS2 light, and that tariff is roughly $4. Although we own the light, we're now responsible for the operations and maintenance of that light. We're only paying $4 per month to Edison for an electricity charge.
What was the LS1?
LS1 is approximately $11, and the LS2 is approximately $4. So that delta of 7, when we multiply that out across all of the city and all of these lights that we're looking to obtain, is quite substantial. We're looking at a $1.5 million a year savings in that delta alone. Now, we have agreed upon a $12.2 million acquisition price. This is a not-to-exceed price. And that is, we could negotiate. This price could come down, although the methodology in which is being approved by the PUC is will be fairly set. So we're looking at about $12.2 for that acquisition. And this acquisition, through Barbara's work with her finance team, is looking to be the acquisition will be financed through the savings, along with any additional maintenance that we may have to do. After the transition, we will be working with Edison, because this is, again, a partnership. We will have to transition all of these 18,000 street lights between their ownership and ours. There's a process in which we'll go through. We'll change the tags. We'll create a database that tells our maintenance staff, where they are, what they look like, what are they made of, what's the wattage, and so on. So they'll be prepared in order to take on any operations and maintenance. And then the evaluation will begin as to whether or not an LED conversion will be beneficial. We have done some preliminary evaluation of that scenario, and we will be investigating it further, but that will be another project that could come before you, is an LED conversion of all of the street lights as well. But owning them opens up that opportunity to change out the lights, to change them to materials that we may prefer, using the LEDs, maybe a lighting control system, which could help us even more efficiently manage our operation and maintenance. So with that, I thank you for your time.
Can you tell us the three types of streetlights there are now? What the difference is?
We currently have streetlights composed of wood poles, steel poles, and Marbolite poles. The majority is Marbolite, and then we'll be acquiring approximately 30% of the wood poles that are in the city. One thing to note is that anything that is attached to distribution lines or comm lines is not eligible for sale. Edison will have to retain those poles because of the attachments on them.
So just because it has a street light on it doesn't mean the city of Lancaster owns it?
That's correct. If it has anything else attached to it, like those lines described, Edison requires that they retain that ownership.
And this is, we're going to look at this and look at later, change the Cobra heads on them and convert them into LEDs?
We're evaluating that, and it could be part of the financing package when it's rolled together, but the financing will come before the council at a later date for your approval once we know exactly what that will be, and Barbara's team has determined the most efficient way for the city to move forward.
And the current liability to this is a little over $600,000 as far as their citizens are currently taxed, and we don't receive enough money to pay for all of it, so it's a little over $600,000. Is that correct?
Correct. The lighting maintenance district, their expenses do exceed the revenues taken in by approximately $600,000.
And
so then obviously by going to that, then we'd be able to backfill that then, I would assume.
Yes. That would be one of our top priorities, is to ensure that the lighting maintenance district balances.
Good savings.
And with the PUC, can we go to is there going to be a thing called a LS3?
An LS3 is a tariff when the streetlight is metered. These streetlights, when they transition, will not move into an LS3 because it is extremely expensive to install a meter on every light or every circuit. There is a push by private developers who are working with the PUC to install what's called micrometers, but they need an approval to become recognized. And that is something that we are watching because it would be very beneficial to transition everything to an LS3. But until then, these will be LS2, and any new developments that go in, we have the policy that new developments install LS3 lights. So currently we have approximately 1,800 LS3 lights, and then that number would grow as new developments come in.
So just so I have it clear, we own from the base up.
Correct.
So if there's a power outage, our people will go out, test at the bottom. If there's power there, then it's our problem. If there's no power, then it's Edison's problem.
Correct. There's going to be a point of demarcation on every type of light. For a Marbolite pole, you'll typically be right there at the base. On some of the overhead lines, it may be at the beginning of the string, and then after that is ours. There are several different scenarios because we have different ages of poles, different styles of installation. But there will be a defined point of demarcation in which we can go out and test and say, if the problem's on this side, it's Edison's. If the problem's on this side, it is ours.
Any more questions?
If the problem being ours, then who is it that would maintain it? Is it the City of Lancaster employees?
It could be in-house staff, depending on that evaluation on whether or not that's the most efficient and cost-effective route to go. So it could be in-house operations and maintenance, or it could be through a third-party contract.
Perfect.
And does that come out of the $1.5 million in savings, the maintenance of these, or has that been figured in already?
It's anticipated that the savings would be able to backfill the hole in the LMD, provide any operation and maintenance costs as well, pay for any LED conversion. We're not looking to take any additional funding to this project.
Plus, we're not losing the $600,000 that
Correct.
we were
That
in
would
the
have
hole.
been backfilled by savings. And just so I know I touched on the timeline up through the PUC approval, the 9 to 12 months. Hopefully, and we're optimistic that that will happen sooner. But once that is finished, that transition period, we're estimating could take approximately 3 to 4 months. So it depends how quickly crews can move and Edison can move to get that transition done. So we are looking roughly a year from now we could be in possession of all of our lights.
Great.
Very nice.
So I got a question for Jason. So this is very similar then to the undertaking that we did here a few years back with taking over sewer maintenance, right? I mean, it's very similar in concept.
Exactly, and I think it touches on some of the underlying goals that I think are not said, but they're there, is that there needs to be alternate ways for us to generate revenue, protect revenue, and provide services. This is one of those along that business model. Currently, our citizens, through that landscape lighting district, are paying for that service. We are, as a general government, paying for that service as well, because those monies that we receive from the taxpayer don't cover the total cost.
Right.
This new opportunity provides that revenue stream to the city, which then allows us to do these LED retrofits, allows us to be more effective with our staffing, allows us to provide a steadier revenue stream to the city, rather than paying third-party people, taking taxes from one person and giving them to the other.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's not a bash on SAE night, but what's the incentive when they monopolize? I mean, what's their incentive? I mean, if we're paying $11 an hour, or now,
Absolutely.
What's their motivation to try to be, who's going and banging on them to say, why don't you change those heads out to LEDs so there can be a savings, and then, I mean, there's...
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's a business function. It's a profit function for SCE. I must say though, SCE has been fantastic in this process. Not only the CCA process, but also the streetlight acquisition process. So as much as, yes, they are losing a business function,
sure,
because there is a cost to them for that, they have willingly, obviously, allowed us to buy these lights for our benefit. So I don't know how it works on their back end, but this is definitely a profit center for them, I would imagine.
Sure.
That they're giving up so that our local community can have greater control.
Kind of like we found out with this sewer maintenance system. We won't go down that road again. It's ours, so things are working great, so this is a very similar project.
I would add, we have examples in our sewer maintenance facility that we do it better. Right? We have examples where we are doing it better, we have done it better. I have a sense that we're going to have a lot of these examples in the future, not only with our streetlights, but with our CCA as well.
Got it.
And again, kudos to staff.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Great job. Thank you. Okay. I need a motion, a second.
A motion that we approve MB3.
I'll second that.
We have motion, a second. Let's vote. Motion carries 4-0. NB4. We don't have any speaker cards.
We'll waive it. Want to waive it?
Are you letting me off the hook, Vice Mayor? I don't know. Hey, is this cooperative with the City of Palmdale?
No, it's a cooperative agreement with Caltrans, and in fact, it's
tell us about it.
A little bit of an unusual agreement, because normally what I would be bringing you tonight would be an agreement with a private consultant, and Caltrans would be in the background, they'd be a reviewing agency, and quite honestly, we'd struggle with them a little bit. So I think this agreement is the potential for something really good. Staff has been working with high-level officials in the District 7 office. We've been discussing innovative solutions, the need for efficiency and cost-effectiveness, and strong local involvement. And Caltrans, surprisingly, has expressed a willingness and even a desire to demonstrate that they can be a good partner. And this agreement is a project initiation documents needed for the Avenue M interchange on the 14 freeway. And if it works well, we'd give them more phases of this project, the environmental phase, the design phase, and we might even consider other interchange projects for them to be involved in. For us, what it means is if this works out well, we'll get quicker turnarounds, lower costs, innovative solutions for our traffic concerns. Also, they are a potential customer of ours for our unique asphalt products. And also, it creates channels for us to work out conflict resolutions on things like our projects that are administered through Caltrans. And so this is a very valuable relationship for us. So let me talk about the project and how we got there. First of all, we would not have this project except for the exceptional work done by you, Vice Mayor Chris, and Councilman Mann, because in 2012, the CTC used STIP funds to widen Highway 138, and this freed up $200 million. And through your work in the NCTC, we were able to secure $65 million for 5 interchange projects here in Lancaster. Without your help, Lancaster probably would have never seen funding at one time for 5 interchanges in 100 years. Those are the 5 interchanges listed. What's so exciting about approaching this all at the same time is we can look at the freeway system as a whole. We can take advantage of scale. We can develop a unified theme along the freeway and adjoining streets to give people a sense of arrival and place. Project that we're asking Caltrans to work with us on is a $20 million project. Our agreement is only for the planning portion of this project, is $220,000. This shows existing conditions. We have a single lane of traffic in each direction crossing over the freeway. There's no signals on the ramps, and the work takes place in 3 different jurisdictions. There's a lot of congestion at that interchange. We have been working with Caltrans already, identifying some what the problems are and some conceptual solutions. The upper left diagram shows a traditional approach with signalized off-ramps. Another approach is shown in the diagram to the lower, the lower right, where there's no signals, but it allows for free flow of traffic in all directions. But both approaches include widening of the bridge deck. Near the top of the slide, we show the process, which requires planning, environmental stages, design, and construction. For this project, we expect it to take about 5 years to go through all the steps necessary to get us a final product. But to kind of quickly summarize, this agreement allows us to move forward on redoing a very important interchange, and also opens the doors for potentially a beneficial relationship with Caltrans. So I'm happy to answer questions, and thank you for allowing me to make the presentation.
No roundabouts?
Well, I didn't. That's an interesting lower right solution. It's not really a roundabout, but it is very innovative. But it could be so.
And with this money, how far out can we go from the 14?
We can go about a mile in each direction. So we're gonna do other improvements to the next major
Intersections, huh?
intersections. Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
On both sides?
On both sides. And so part of the plan is to do that as well.
So we're going to do both sides of the freeway
Yes.
a mile out?
Yes.
Good.
Very nice.
To the interchange.
Good.
Excellent.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
No?
I need a motion and a second for NB4.
Do we have to take those, can we take those concurrent, or do we have to take those separate?
You can take them concurrent.
Okay, then I'll approve the recommendations for both A and B.
I second.
We have a motion and a second for A and B. Let's vote. Motion carries 4-0 for no roundabouts.
Almost.
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 NB5. Is this the same thing?
It's a different interchange, a very important one, Avenue K.
Okay, we have no speaker cards.
But this is the most, this is real. Have you seen what Avenue K looks like in the morning?
Yes?
Man.
Oh, man. We got to clearly get that fixed.
Absolutely. And good evening
Robert,
again.
tell us how.
Tell us where we got the money.
Yes, yes. Before you is a more traditional kind of an agreement. This is with a private engineering consultant. And in those 5 interchanges, what we decided to do is tackle the hardest project first. And the reason we're doing that is to give us some flexibility in the overall program. And so if we had to move money to support this project, we could do that. And we could also start to look at solutions that are beyond the immediate project area to help us find. And it's a $15 million project at this point. Again, thank you, Vice Mayor Crispin, for getting us that money. This is an area...
Robert, let me interrupt you real quick so I can tell the story on that. This is a cooperation between the 2 cities, actually, that the 2 cities got together and split this money. So Palmdale actually has more of 138 in its city boundaries, and we only have a certain. So we took a lion's share of the money, but Mr. Mann and myself both sit on the NCTC board, and we're able to come to an agreement with the city of Palmdale. So it's a great cooperation between the 2 cities.
Yeah, despite what naysayers sometimes say between us working together.
Well, I also believe that if you guys wouldn't have been there and wouldn't have spoken up, we would not have that money. And it's incredibly important that we do. This is an aerial of Avenue K and the State Route 14 interchange. It has 6 ramp, partial cloverleaf interchange. And between 10th Street West and 20th Street West on Avenue K, there are 6 signals, 2 of which are Caltrans. And they're not synchronized with our other signals. This is part of the reason why there's such a terrible traffic congestion problem on Avenue K. And also what happens at this interchange is traffic actually backs up on the freeway. So kind of as an aside, I'm going to tell you that our work with Caltrans, the discussions we are having now, is for our crews here locally take over the maintenance responsibilities, see if we can't work out an agreement so that we could do synchronization so that traffic flows better in both directions. And quite honestly, because we're here, we can respond faster, I think we could do a better job. So hopefully I'll come back to you with an agreement on that. There are a number of challenges in addressing the interchange and needed street improvements. We got to consider the impact to the businesses, figure out how to accommodate pedestrians and bicyclists. We also want to address this interchange up because it's a primary entrance corridor into our city. Our goal is to make this really an exceptional interchange. And so we've already started to look at what the issues are, and I know you can't read it on this slide, but on the right-hand slide, there's quite a list of issues. We have lots of constraints here, making a physical solution very challenging. We're looking at it, and we're going to have to think of out-of-the-box kinds of solutions. And so we're considering how traffic flows in this area, and it may require a solution that isn't right at Avenue K. It may require some additional ramps, specifically at Avenue KA, and so with having a bigger program, we can start to do those kinds of things and try to make more sense out of it. So we sought out firms that could be creative, who have the experience and background both in engineering and working with Caltrans. And we believe TRC Solutions will do a good job for us and help us not only find solutions for Avenue K, but helps set a theme that identifies as you come down the freeway where Lancaster is, and something that we all can be proud of. So with that concludes my remarks. I'd be happy to answer questions.
Any questions?
Nope.
Questions? I need a motion in a second. Thank you.
A motion that we approve NB5.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Let's vote. Motion carries 4-0. NB6.
Good evening, Vice Mayor and Council. We have talked a lot tonight about how we're going to improve this community for our citizens. Now let's talk about how we want to beautify it. Under the direction of the Parks, Recreation, and Arts Department, we work on special classes, and we offer those to our citizens at various rates depending on what type of class that we have available for them. Anything from tennis to sword fighting to art classes to senior fitness, aquatics, things of that nature. We recently received a grant from Lancaster West Rotary in the amount of $1,500 that we would like to present you with this evening. That will go to offset senior registration fees and model fees for our open studio classes offered at MOA every week. We do these twice a week, and they benefit approximately 200 seniors in the last few months, and as well as just drop-in students that come in and work on their art. And as you can see, these are some of the samples of what have come out of those classes. So we think that they're very beneficial and very beautiful, and we're very appreciative of Lancaster West Rotary for supplying this grant. Vice Mayor Chris, would you like to come down and accept it?
So do we need to approve that? When people give us money, we need to approve them, give them us?
Yes, we need to appropriate it to their proper account. So yes, you do need to approve receiving the money.
Okay.
Well, that's not tough to take, is it?
Yeah.
We were just looking for an excuse to bring the big check out, but you can approve it.
We like big checks.
Yeah.
Thanks, Todd. Okay. I need a motion and a second for NB6.
I move that we appropriate the amount of $1,500 to the account number 1064644-722 for the Lancaster West Rotary Club Youth Service Grant.
772.
What's that?
The last digit, 772.
772.
Yes. A second.
Okay.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, vote. Okay, we approve taking your money, Todd. Thank you.
Yay.
We ought to ask him to bring more if he's want to give us more.
Yeah, we really like ending the meeting like that.
Todd, do you have any money? Mr. Band, CR1.
Oh, just let me give a brief overview of our April 17th meeting. We got a small presentation on the upcoming 2014-2015 budget process, and I heard a glimmer of hope there. And the positive note is that after operating the first full year, is some of the expenditures are coming in lower than they originally anticipated. So that was positive to hear.
So they're going to lower the rates?
So the question I raised was exactly that same thing. And the assurances that I got was once the reserves are replenished, that it's encouraging for staff to believe that they can go back and revisit those current rates and potentially lower those rates. And I was surprised to hear a bureaucratic, here we got the machine out of L.A. County speaking like that. I was flabbergasted when they actually said that. So I'm very optimistic that, and I'm going to keep my fingers crossed, that they over budgeted and then we're going to be able to return some money back. And I'm going to be looking for that in 2015-16. And then I do want to encourage business owners that, and actually it's open to anybody in the city of Lancaster that's serviced by that district, is to make application for a reduction in those rates. A little more challenging for someone that's a homeowner because of the way in which we use water now, which is the lion's share goes to irrigation. But what I'm beginning to see from feedback from business owners is there's been some significant reductions where they've made application for a reduction, and where I've actually heard stories from business owners where they've had their sewer bill cut in half.
Wow.
And it's more common than the other side. So I'm not quite for sure, but I'll get with Mark, and I want to make sure, although they probably don't want me doing this publicly, but I'm going to encourage specifically business owners to take a hard look at the process and see if they can't get some of those dollars back. Because I'm talking about, and I'm not exaggerating, tens of thousands of dollars reduction, and that's significant. So, a positive thing there.
Good job, Ken.
Good
news. Job. Can we get a change on the council reports so we can abide by the Brown Act as far as listing all? So if we have a council report from any of the council members, we can give them? Is that?
Sure.
And just listed as council reports?
They can report. You can report on anything. You simply can't take action.
Okay.
So you can do a report now without any further agenda listing. We just can't take action on anything without it being agendized per the Brown Act.
Okay. Then I'm going to report out that we did go to the Neil A. Armstrong Flight Research Center that was redesignated from the Dryden. So it was a great day. They had a lot of innovation, imagination. Everything was out there today. The families were out there. It was a huge day for the Antelope Valley. So everybody was out there. There was about 500 people out there. They're having an event at UAV tonight, the Board of Trade. The Board of Trade was very instrumental in bringing the name of the change. So I don't know about the rest of you, but I remember where I was when Apollo 11 landed. So
it's a great day for Nail Valley to recognize Neil Armstrong and having it recognized as the Flight Research Center. So congratulations to him and his family.
And actually, adding on to that, Neil Armstrong's children, both of his sons are going to be performing at the university also in his honor. So it's going to be really nice tonight. We're missing that.
They performed there. They were very good.
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
They were very good. So it was
good.
It was good.
And if I may add, too, this weekend we had an organization together in Faith and Family, short TIF for short. It's an organization that is for children, and they donate money or clothing for children, and it's all done by our children in our community. And there was 1,200 children that showed up to donate for our own children in our community, and that was really rewarding. So we'd like to thank the TIF organization for putting that together.
No action on the Housing Authority, no action on the Finance Authority, no action on the Power Authority, no action on the Successor Agency. City Manager, did you do anything this week?
I'm going to get a haircut tomorrow. Got a couple things. First off, we had a really good agenda today for the City of Lancaster. What might not have been noticed is we also awarded under consent calendar a $3.6 million contract to repair and resurface 45 lane miles of roads. That's more than some cities have, so that's a pretty big deal. And then we're going to also hear about BYD, which is another first for the City of Lancaster. We have a short video, and Brian's going to give a report on recycling. But I wanted to talk for a moment before then. There's a lot of good things that happened today, and Councilwoman Johnson and I had a really good conversation on Friday. She was looking at the agenda, she was getting her briefing, as she always does, and she was going, wow, how do so many good things happen? How do we all collectively do so many things that, are firsts or good for the city? And we had a nice conversation, won't go into the details, but it ended up being about team. There's a saying in sports that players win games, but teams win championships. And we truly have a team at the City of Lancaster. Not just staff, not just executive staff, not just everything. We have a team, and we have each other's backs, and we try to do what's best every day. What doesn't get always said in that is the council part of that. Respectfully, talking about the Vice Mayor and Ken Mann, if you just sat on the board and didn't do anything, we wouldn't have $55 million and we wouldn't have interchanges. If you were predisposed to say no in terms of why are we going to be the first at the CCA, let's be second. Or streetlights, why the heck do we want to do the streetlights, let's see someone else, we wouldn't have it. So we at the City of Lancaster appreciate the team aspect that we have, and that when we accomplish things or when we make mistakes, it's together. So I applaud you for that, and I applaud staff for that. So it's a wonderful, wonderful place to work. It's a highlight of my life personally, my professional life. With that, I'd like to ask Brian to talk about briefly the recycling event we had, and then we're going to end with a short video on BYD, which was another first.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor and members of the council. On May 3rd and 4th, the city conducted a recycling event in which we invited people to come from the community and give us the things that we don't want dumped in our desert. And we were very successful in that. I've received some of the numbers back on what exactly we were able to accomplish. 900 gallons of waste oil that was turned in. Over 10 tons of e-waste. 100 gallons of antifreeze, 125 gallons of cooking oil, and 270 vehicles that brought all of that. 73% of the people that came were our city residents, but that means that more than 1/4 of them were people from outside our city limits. Events like this really pull into focus the recycling center that the city has out at its yard. And it's really, really important because these events make people aware that it's not as difficult to dispose of things properly as they might normally think. A number of years ago, I was sitting at a council meeting, and a council member at that time described a thing that had happened as a win-win-win situation. and people found that kind of amusing, but in this particular case, I think it's perfectly appropriate to describe what's happening with our recycling efforts, because our residents win. They have easy way to dispose of these things on schedules that they make, not on a schedule that somebody else makes for them. Our environment, of course, wins in our desert because there's less dumping of toxic and other materials out in our desert. And our city wins because we then have to spend less time dealing with illegal dumping, and we get revenue from these items that are turned in. So there is more available for our city programs, and we have a better environment because of it. I would really like to recognize people such as Jocelyn Swain, Donald Watkins, Jason McClure, and Randy Davis, who participated in doing this event, getting the word out, and I'm sure there are many others that I'm forgetting. But once again, thank you to the City Council for providing the leadership to allow us to have this kind of a facility in our community and provide that service to our residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you for what you do.
Just wanted to say, it was a good job, Brian. I just wanted to make it clear that a lot of that cooking oil was from all my cooking that I've been doing for this year. So I appreciate you. I just wanted to...
Toasters don't use oil.
Good job, Brian. Thank you.
City Clerk. We're going to show the BYD video. I'm sorry. Okay. Sorry.
Gotcha.
The cooking oil threw us off.
This has been a 5-year adventure that I can't tell you how gratifying it is and how proud we are in Lancaster that it started here. We're going to be the first net zero city in the world. And I think it's fitting that the first net zero bus is going to be built here. And what is really exciting to me is that it's a global cooperation with a global partnership that is going to be producing these buses.
Yes, I'm glad to hear that this Republican village is the renewable energy capital of America. Good. Because this is really not about partisan politics.
This event honor you and all of your accomplishment to make the first American-made long-range electric bus.
Bringing the world to net zero. You know, that's what this bus is going to do.
Great job. City Clerk.
Any person who would like to address the Housing Authority and City Council on non-agendized matters may complete a speaker card. You will find the speaker cards on the back table of the council chambers. We respectfully request that you fill the cards out completely and print as clearly as possible so that if necessary, the City Council, City Manager, or City staff will be able to contact you. As much as we appreciate your requests to make comments before your 3 minutes begin, please understand your time starts when you begin to speak. Individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes each. If you choose to ask a question during this time, any response by council will not extend your 3 minutes. When you approach the podium, you will see that there are 3 lights. The green light comes on when you begin, the yellow light will come on when you have 30 seconds remaining, and the red light will come on when your 3 minutes are up. We ask that you be considerate of the allotted time to allow other speakers to have their 3 minutes as well. Following this procedure will allow for a smooth and timely process for the meeting, and we appreciate your cooperation. State law prohibits the City Council from taking action on items not on the agenda, and your matter will be referred to the City Manager. Thank you.
David Dion. Welcome, David.
Thank you. Good evening, Vice Mayor Christ and members of the City Council. My name is David Dion, President of Antelope Valley Freethinkers, a nonprofit organization dedicated to promoting a rational worldview through fellowship, education, and community service. I'm here to personally thank Mayor Paris for his climate change advocacy. This past September, the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change concluded there is a 95% probability that human activity is the main cause of global warming, which is corroborated by 97% of actively publishing climate scientists. While the subject isn't scientifically controversial, it continues to be very contentious politically, as I'm sure you know. The stance the mayor has taken is very unpopular in his own party, and surely among many of his constituents. It would be much more expedient for him to simply avoid the issue, but he doesn't, and that to me speaks to a level of courage and integrity that deserves to be acknowledged and applauded. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Joanne? Welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm back here today pretty much on the same subject. This is in regards to the release of Christopher Hubbard into the Antelope Valley. However, I'm bringing a solution to the table that has all been presented to the Board of Supervisors via your satellite here in the library, which I think is very underutilized and should be promoted a whole lot more. And also at the Palmdale City Council, both County Council and City Manager and Attorney over there are working on this. We have the ability to do a live broadcast. In the same way we do our Board of Supervisors meetings, there's no reason why we can't have the Santa Clara hearings in the Antelope Valley. There's no reason why we should not be able to facilitate that here and allow our community members to stand up at the microphone and have their 2 minutes here in the Antelope Valley and have Judge Brown listening to us at that end. Right now, my understanding, the phone call I received today, is that the DA in Santa Clara is okay with this. We have yet to hear back from Judge Brown. It would be great if we had both Lancaster and Palmdale and LA County working on this together. And I'm asking for this, for the community to come together on this one. This isn't about anybody taking the lead. This is about us all working together and giving all of our community the chance to come out and speak. Not just those who can afford to let go of a day's wage, probably over $100 to $200 in gas, lodging, food. I can't afford to go out there. I will if I have to. But I know there's a lot of people that can't afford it. They can't take, we're struggling out here as it is. A letter is not enough. A form letter isn't going to be enough. We should have our 2 minutes here and our chance to speak. So I know you guys can't really talk about it right now, but I would hope that the city takes it into consideration. Please can contact, I hate saying his name and I hate saying it on record, Ditsatsi? I cannot, huh? That gentleman. I can't say the name, I'm sorry. I'm a former, my 3 minutes are up. I do have a concern. This gentleman is possibly coming to our area. I don't like it. I have issues with it. But we're all under one constitution. I have 2 children serving in the military right now that fight for everybody's rights. He has been sentenced. He has served his sentence. He may be released. We have a thing in this country called double jeopardy. And he has certain, I don't like saying it and it's hard, but he does have rights. We need to make sure that we don't put our cities in jeopardy, our police station in jeopardy of legal action if he is not given those rights. And it just burns me to say it because I'm with everybody else in my emotions. But the fact of the matter is that we have to give him equal protection under the law, no matter what our personal feelings are about the gentleman. That's it.
Thank you for your comments. V. Woods.
Thank you for waiting for the time to tick off. Oh, hello, everyone.
Welcome.
I wanted to talk about the bus service, the electric bus. I wondered how many Lancaster residents are employed with that company now and what their salaries are. Maybe you could answer that for me later.
I think there's over 76 that are employed right now. There's going to be over 200 by the end of the year, and they're more than minimum wage.
And they're Lancaster residents?
A lot of them are. A lot of them are community residents that come from Palmdale, Lancaster, and the entire Antelope Valley.
Okay, that's wonderful. And I'd like to thank the city or whoever for our covered bus benches that are around the city. They went in before the city council election. So I'm a bus rider a lot and senior citizen. So I really appreciate these lovely looking bus benches around the city. I know of 2 more places we need some, so I'll call it in later.
You could tell me now.
Oh, let's see. 20th and J East. And I've got to think about the other one, my memory.
Okay. Call us, let us know. You have 2 of the AVTA board members here. And,
right now. Okay.
Right now. So we'll be glad to look at it, and we're always looking for ways to improve the bus service.
Okay, there's 3 bus benches on 3 corners, but the 4th one is not by McDonald's.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
Then, let's see. Well, I'm kind of looking at the water issue, so I talked to them. And I wanted to talk about improving the city. I've lived here since 1947, and I love Lancaster, and I want us all to have rights and everything. And I'm talking about improving the city looks and the environment and the first impression of Lancaster. And my heart belongs to the Metrolink station. I rode on the first Metrolink station train when it first started here. I had my little hat on, my coat, when it first opened up. So I have a real feeling for the Metrolink station. I wondered if we could improve the looks. We have a porta potty out there for everyone to use. It's really embarrassing. And somehow the restroom system has locks on the doors. We can't get them open. The guard is not always there. It's just really hostile to see these locks on the doors and a big porta potty over there. This is kind of disgusting for this city. It's like no one cares about us citizens. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with you
Yeah.
in regards to the Metrolink station.
Yeah.
It's disgusting. It's not adequate where it's currently located. We are looking at moving the Metrolink station from its current location so it would serve the citizens of Lancaster in their needs and their, to betterment.
Well, I like to maintain the original. I know you tore down one of our heritage, one of our adobe homes, but I like the original station where it is. We could decorate it more Western.
Well, we're not going to tear down no more adobe
Put in
homes, and
That's good.
as long as the Metrolink station's not adobe, it might go.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I love this city and our citizens.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Michael Povar.
Good evening, Council, Vice Mayor Christ. I represent 1140 Commerce Center Drive in Lancaster, and I'm with Charles Dunn Company, and we're interested in finding alternative uses for this property. We know that retail's kind of empty in some spaces, and we know that charter schools have gone into some retail buildings. So we're looking to find out if you guys know of any other alternative uses for this property. It's 56,000 square feet, and so if you have any ideas for that.
See that gentleman right there that's going to raise his hand?
We spoke. He's taking a tour of the property.
Okay.
Yeah. So
that's our guy.
That's your guy. Okay. So that's what I'm here for.
Okay, I
All right.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, two other people, Heather Brown, I don't see her. I told her I'd give her an opportunity to do it, and David Paul said I'd give him an opportunity. Okay. So, that's all for that. We're going to go into closed session, and we'll now recess into closed session to discuss the matters listed on the agenda as items 1 through 10. We'll be right back. Okay, we're now going to reconvene the meeting. City Attorney, your announcements, please.
Yes, in closed session, the council discussed 2 items of anticipated litigation pursuant to agenda item number 1, as well as item number 7 and item number 10. No reportable action on any item.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, the Housing Authority and the City Council meeting is adjourned till Tuesday, May 27th at 5 p.m. Thank you.